Hey guys, how are you doing today?
Very well.
Hello, very nice. Lovely to talk to you.
Yes, yes. So excited to talk to you both too. Today I have with me from Age of Inventors and Meeple Pug Publishing. They have a game on Kickstarter right now. This is Vasilis and Vanton, two of the co-designers of the game. We're gonna hang out, talk about the game, talk about who has influenced them and what's going on in Thessaloniki right now in Greece. So welcome again.
Thank you.
Yeah, what do you want to say about your game, guys?
Well, it's a worker placement game about inventors in the middle of 18th century and 19th century, I'm sorry, when one thing brought to another, industrial revolution, and people stopped working in farms. They started accumulating and living in cities, and technology changed everything. And this is the world we're living in. So it's a fascinating time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely game, and what we really wanted to manage is to be very fun to play with your kids, with your family, and also having a very challenging experience when you're playing more competitively with your friends. I believe we managed to go this to find this balance between competitive and challenging and easy to learn but hard to master, so you can play with your family, your friends, your less board game geek friends, let's say.
Yeah. Well, that's who a lot of our listeners are people who don't necessarily go to Board Game Geek, but they'll go to hobby stores here in the US and find a game. So that's great. In fact, I was just talking, I homeschool my own boys, and I was talking this week with some homeschool parents about good games for their kids that incorporate learning. So I think this definitely fits into that, something that can introduce people from history too. So that's awesome.
One of the stretch goals we unlocked is a kids mode, where it's going to be accessible to even younger kids, like 6 to 10 years old. So,
okay, yeah, fantastic. Did you have younger playtesters at all in the regular game?
Yes, actually, I had my nephews who are 12 and 10, and I know I always played with his son, who is around 6 years old. And they all had fun. Once they got to learn the basics of the game, which took, I don't know, like 10 minutes more than an adult would, they had fun playing the game. It was very easy for them to incorporate every single mechanic into their strategy. And I know I always had fun playing with his sons. I had fun playing with my nephews. And we hope that people will play with their families, with children. The theme is very appropriate for learning,
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, I'm going to throw a pop quiz at the two of you. I only briefly told you before we got started. So Marie Curie is in the game, right?
Yes.
Correct? Yep.
Of course. Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, she's the only person to have won 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different categories. So definitely a very important person in the history of science. First off, though, where did she initially study before she came to France? Is it, and this one, so 2 of the questions are going to be multiple choice, and you can talk together and then decide and give me your answer.
Okay.
But yeah. And then 2 of the questions will be multiple choice, and then the last one you're just going to see if you remember. Okay, so was it at the Flying University, the Underground School, or the University of Warsaw? You can talk together.
I know she studied at Warsaw, and she's Polish.
I was going to say Poland as well.
Yeah, but I think the correct answer is Flying University, because I remember when I was studying about her for the game, I met that name and it stuck with me, Flying University. So I think that's the correct answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely, that's right. So yeah, it's a rough translation, right? It could also be translated as like the floating school or the floating university. It was this way of making sure that Polish students, while they were part of the Russian Empire, could have a decent education, because she was actually Polish before she came to France. Yeah. Great job. Great memory.
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah. All right. So the second one is, so although she was born, although she was a naturalized French citizen later on, and most people know that just hearing her last name and who she married and so forth. But where was she born? Was she born and maybe I should have put these in a different order, but was she born in Lithuania, Poland, or Belarus?
I think
Poland.
Poland, right?
Poland is correct. And for those that know about the history, Lithuania and Poland were combined during that time.
Yes.
So again, I probably
the Commonwealth of Polish Lithuania.
Yes, you're exactly right, because of the Russian Empire controlling them at the time. So there is some things, again, I probably should have switched the order of those questions, but that's all right. And then here, the last one, this isn't necessarily a hard question if you know about her, but what 2 areas were her Nobel Prizes in?
What 2 areas?
Yeah. What like, she received the first for her work in radioactivity in 1903. What was that Nobel Prize for?
I know that she was a physicist and a chemist. So maybe it's physics and chemistry.
There you go. Yep. So yeah, the first one was 1903 for physics, and the second one was 1911 for chemistry. So
and I want to say that this is reflected in her title in the game. She's both a physicist and a chemist in the game.
Well, there you go. So
Indeed.
It'll help kids remember those facts about her, and maybe
hopefully
adults too. Hopefully, right? Yeah. Well, fantastic, great. So as you developed the game, I saw that there were different mechanics in the game. How did you? Sometimes things like that can feel like just throwing everything in. And here in the U.S., we refer to that as like a Euro point salad. How did you make sure that those different elements fit together well, as far as trying to accomplish what you were trying to accomplish in the game?
Fighting with our friends, our girlfriends, and family for playtesting way too much. Playtesting. That's how. I think that's how we did it. We had many ideas, and we had many mechanics in this game that I believe the hardest part in this game, designing this game, was to choose which mechanics to keep in the game and which to hold off for maybe an expansion, or I don't know. Lots of playtesting with lots of different people. Vasilis did a great job on creating many mechanics that ended up in the game, and many mechanics that did not. We tried to choose those who were more in tune with each other. We didn't want to do separate things and get points from them. We just wanted everything to be, you get the resources from scientific resources like chemistry and physics, but you also need funds. So you need to make an invention, but also you need an inventor, and this guy will give you ideas to conceive the invention. We try to make everything to fit together with lots and lots of playtesting. I don't know if Vasilis has anything more to say on that.
Maybe something that helped us think this way from the get-go was that the game was originally meant to be an engine building game. So when designing the engine, we mostly thought of the terms that would be included. Like as Vanton said, scientific resources, funds, ideas, inventions, and inventors. And we were trying to make things that would allow you to get from one to the other and make multiple loops between them. So when the thing actually became, when the route from one element to the other became a mechanic at the end, and now they're all connected, let's say, and you cannot just do one thing in isolation. It is impossible. You have to do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
So that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. So I mean, you would say it's more of an engine builder as far as how it works, rather than doing separate activities on the board. More.
Definitely, it's an engine building.
Yeah. Well, and that's hard to tell when somebody watches just like the Kickstarter video. When you watch the Kickstarter video, you see certain things and you say, oh, this could be doing this, or this could be doing this. But hearing it from both of you, so give me an example then. Like one that stands out in the video is like you see the Wright brothers getting placed down, then later that flying machine gets placed next to them. Give me an example of maybe an engine that you might build in the game.
Okay, so it all starts with drafting one inventor and two inventions. So you start with this from the get-go, and you also start with some resources. And your first step, anything that has to do with the engine, pretty much is centered around the switches. Switches allow you to draft new inventors or draft new inventions.
Okay.
And then it also allows you to place them. And every time you place an inventor, you get ideas. And then with those ideas, you can draft inventions. And then when you play inventions, you have to spend resources, but usually you will get other resources or other abilities. And also, every time you place inventors, you create a new worker placement spot that allows you to get even more resources. And also, every beginning of the round, you draft equipment for your lab, like scientific instruments. And then those are additional ways for you to use lab assistants, workers, meeples, to get more resources. So it all works in a loop.
Yeah. And a very important part of this whole engine and loop is what laboratory you are. If you are an innovator, then you have lots of ideas, but not so many funds, and you need to work your strategy around that. If you're playing a government lab or a big corporation lab, you have lots of funds, maybe less ideas, and you need to steal some ideas from an innovator or something. Yeah, we have that. So every single player board, it's also dual layered, has a specific bonus that will allow you for different kinds of strategies so you can win the game. As Vasilis said, you cannot focus on one thing. You really need to be able to do just a little bit of everything in a good balance to win. But every single one has different potential and different options for what strategy will win you the game.
Yes, or for example, if you have a university, you can place inventor and inventor together with their invention because they developed it in the university. So they do everything in one go. So everything is, the game is really tight. So it's gonna challenge you a lot to be able to do as much as you can. And everybody has a separate edge. Every lab has a separate edge, and they need to take advantage of it, even though they cannot just focus on this.
Yeah. So at the end of the game, do you only score in one way, or are there multiple things that you will score at the end of the game?
There are many ways to score points.
Okay.
I will, just to name a few, there are 3 tracks, an economic track, an educational track, an academic track, and an industrial track. The higher you are there and you climb up by making the proper inventions, you have more points. The other way is to find a way to retire some of your, and not only your, but other players' inventors. There are ways to, if an inventor makes enough inventions, it is his time to retire. And whoever does that, whoever managed to place the inventions in the proper place, in the proper space, he can retire it and gain some victory points. Also, you can try an experiment. There are some experiments in the game where you don't know exactly what you will be required to do to gain the points, but you can try to, okay, I'll make an experiment, and if I manage to do it properly, then I'll get some extra points in the end of the game. And I'm pretty sure there are other ways to score points that I can't remember now. For example, because you mentioned Marie Curie, whenever she's retired, because she doesn't actually retire, well, we know she died because of her research. Yeah. Whoever had her, when she retires, when she dies, he also gets 1 victory point. as an honor to Marie Curie for what she's done. And that was, for me at least, that was the most fun part of designing the game, reading about all those inventors and trying to find an ability that will reflect their life or their life's work. For example, the fact that the Wright brothers translocate a worker from one place to another because they invented the flying machine, and another stuff like Colt, who discovered the pistol. The pistol, right. He steals stuff from other scientists.
Okay.
And yeah, that was the most fun part of the design for me.
And also, something interesting is that even though these are the two main ways to score are the tracks and retiring, these two ways are completely separate in their play style. Scoring high in the track is rewarding you for your economical game, making sure that you have played your resources correctly and you manage to score higher, score the better invention, draft better, and so on and so forth. Retiring inventors is an order of operations game and a special puzzle, meaning it's about the space. You have to match colors and surround with hexes other inventors. So there is a little bit of different play styles that reward you with victory points. You don't just play one game. It's not just economic, it's also a puzzle on space on the board.
Yeah. Well, so you both met working on USS Freedom in the local design playtest group, I guess, right?
That's how we met Vasilis.
Okay. Okay.
I met Aulus a while back. I've been working as a dedicated game designer for about 3 years. And right about that time, I met Aulus playing D&D on an event I had created. We played D&D for a couple of months before he said, hey, you know what? You want to make a game? You want to create He had already created a Theosis. And I started working on Aulus. And when we got to USS Freedom, that's when we met Vasilis.
Oh, okay. So what is the game design and playtest group like there in Greece? Is it a regular meetup where you get together, or are there specific events?
Currently, like for example, the way I met them is that there were some Facebook groups about board games, people who are into the hobby, and Vanton was looking for playtesters, so that's how I got to know them. I realized they are from my hometown, so I just suggested to meet them. But it's not exactly a playtest group, more like a design studio for games.
Okay.
And currently, what we're doing is that we meet every Tuesday and Saturday, where we playtest and ideate for what to do until we meet again. And that's pretty much the process.
It's more of a design group, what we have at least. It's more of a design group.
Yeah.
But often we search for playtesters when our game is good enough to be seen by other groups. We request playtesting, and there are plenty of groups and plenty of people who are willing to help.
Yeah. So your studio is a designated space that you have for your designers there that you work with, or is it out of your home, or what's that like?
No, we have an office, let's say a designer's office, and we have like 300 opened games there, and everything is a mess because we will require one specific component, and we'll just open it, find it, play it, then never put it back in their place.
And there's a ton of half-made prototypes, different iterations of games, and old components.
There are pretty much 30 versions of Age of Inventors as we speak there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the best part is like there's this Magic the Gathering cards that are sleeved. Yep. Okay. And they are put backwards, and every time we want to make a new card for a new game, we just take a piece of paper and put it inside, And then the next one,
Inside the
just
sleeve,
put
yeah.
the cards on top of them, and then there's 5 pieces of paper in each of these sleeves, and they're just from different games, and they get reused 1,000 times.
We will tidy up. We promise. We will tidy up.
Yeah, for some of the people that have like their box organizers and everything, I'm sure that sounds terrible. But for those that love creating, it sounds exciting too. That's really funny that you mentioned the Magic the Gathering cards just being used as backers. So I'm part of our local playtest design group here in Cincinnati, because I work for a small publisher, and I'm a developer myself. But when we go, that's what everybody does, is we just use Magic the Gathering cards as our backers for, if you have any cards in the game. So
it's what we have in abundance. It's what we have in abundance.
Yeah, exactly.
For some reason, for some weird reason.
It's like they just keep printing them. Yeah.
Yes.
So who are some designers that have influenced both of you?
Just a random box.
Oh yeah, just a random. So for those that can't see it, that are listening, that was a box. Was that a 500 box shoe box with Magic?
That was 4,000.
Oh, that's the 4,000 one.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I couldn't quite see the size of it. Yeah. Okay. So 4,000 cards. Yeah. So who are some game designers that have influenced both of you, either in the specific mechanics that you have said, hey, I like that mechanic and I want to use it in this game, or just in games that you enjoy and have given you joy playing in the past?
Steinmeier is one of the best in his field. I loved his games, Scythe being my favorite one.
Okay.
I also love not Steinmeier's, Everdell, who I don't remember now the name of the designers, so please forgive me.
Yeah.
Those are the games that when I played them, I said I would like to be able to make a game like those games. And I believe those two affected me most. And Vasilis, about you?
My first favorite designer was Antoine Bauza. I loved playing Seven Wonders.
Yeah.
I loved playing Takenoko, like entry games, simple games, but I liked how they seemed to be like really thought out, and they got me into thinking about game design. I liked the experience they gave me. And then it's mostly like a selection of games. Like, for example, the people I play with, we love hidden role games. So we played a lot of Avalon, the Resistance, and
I love that game. I love that game, by the way.
Yeah, so it's like really simple games. They don't sound complicated and cool, but also like Eclipse, Second World of the Galaxy. I love the game. It's actually the game that takes longest, but it's my most played game. I played almost all the time, especially during COVID. I was playing it 1,000 times. Recently, I fell in love with Spartacus. Vanton introduced me to the game. Amazing game.
Amazing game indeed.
I think this game is, for me, a game that is extremely intuitive for people to get into it, because all the mechanics really translate to our instincts. Everybody knows how to gamble. Everybody knows how to bid. Everybody knows how to throw dice.
And unfortunately, everybody knows how to betray.
Yes, exactly. And it plays so well because it gets you to play with people. It really activates the human element of board games. So anything that really takes advantage of the fact that a board game is a game that is played with people around the board, and not like video games where most people are playing alone, or interaction is distant and through brother. I think that's the best job of being a board game.
Okay. So is there a take that element in Age of Inventors then?
Yes, there is.
Yes, okay. Yes, there is. Yes, there is an Ingenuity Track. That's how we called it. And the higher you are there, you are safe. People cannot steal from you, because every steal in the game says steal X from those who are below you in the Ingenuity track.
Okay.
And to go up in the Ingenuity track, you need ideas, and there is
which are very valuable. You don't want to waste those.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And it's very difficult, or it's very fun for me, at least, to the constant battle of I'm gonna go up, and every time somebody goes up, maybe he does it because he wants to feel safe that people won't steal him, but everybody will look at him. Why are you going up? You want to steal from us, right? No, I'm just going to be safe that you won't steal from me. And this is an excellent dynamic in the game. You might never steal anything and still win, of course. You might never be up in the Ingenuity track and win the game, of course. But usually there is a small war, a small bloodshed about who will be on top and how, because one of the inventions is the tank, right? So
okay,
when somebody invent that, well, something bad is about to happen to everybody else. And the higher you are on the track, the better for you. So there is a small take that element. Is just that it's not specific to someone. Players cannot gang up on someone in the game, because all take that actions are still from everyone who is below you in the game. So
there's no targeting or king making.
It's not targeting. We wanted to avoid that because I don't know, because we wanted to be more easy for kids to play, and it's an emotion that we wanted to avoid, that people are ganging up on me.
Yeah.
So I believe we avoided that.
Yeah.
And not everyone is created equal. If you play the government lab, you start at the top of this track, and it's very hard for anybody to move you from there.
Okay.
And I believe the government is the one that stays up by paying funds instead of ideas.
Yes, and if you vote against them in breaking news, you have to pay them ideas because they're also lobbying.
Breaking news is a card that starts at the second, third, and fourth round at the start of the round, and it will change a little bit the rules of the game for that round. There is always an option, and people vote for which option they want. And the Ingenuity track is also the tiebreaker in those sort of situations. And as Vasilis said, there is this the government, right? It's the government that you cannot vote against. If you do vote against, then she will steal money from you, or
an idea, still an idea.
Still an idea, or much worse, still an idea.
So, going back to your design studio and the because that sounds like a lot of fun. But where do you have the most problems with trying to design? Okay, so you have all these components, you have time together. What gives you each or together the hardest part? And maybe this is something you've already alluded to, the fact that you had to make decisions about what to actually keep and what to remove from the game. But what is hard about designing a game like Age of Inventors?
So for my case, not so much for Vanton, is time. I have a day job and I have to balance and find time to do the work. The deeper you are in the design, the more fine details you have to correct and fix and design. And this takes a lot of time. And I think the defining factor for how soon you're going to be finished or how much you're going to be able to resolve problems is how fast can you test. If you're able to test frequently with easy steps without having to do a lot of work, then anything that comes up in design is going to be addressed. If it takes you a lot of time to test because you need to produce a prototype or to create the situation that needs to be tested, then this always delays it. So more complicated, more deeper into the design you get, the harder it is to get some results. For me, that's for me.
It's exactly as Vasilis said. The designing process swallows every single second of time you will give it. You never know. You are never, okay, I'm done. I've designed it. It's a perfect game. I'm done. You always want to test more. You always want to try more, and to stop that. To be able to actually move forward is to playtest often. every idea you have, every creation you make, you need to put it into the test, see where it has problems, fix those problems, and then move on. It's the hardest part for me as well.
So when you're looking at playtesting, I know some people take very detailed notes. Other people will just let a group go after they get the rules written so that they can blind playtest. Like I've seen people that just set up a camera so they can watch and then step out of the room, because some people don't like the notes being taken right next to them. What's your method for playtesting, or are you playing among the group too?
Both. We actually
mostly
go ahead.
we at least until for as long as the game is in early iterations, we playtest among us. But then we ask other people to join us, maybe one at a time, and then maybe just one of us goes and plays with other people. But in the beginning, it's mostly us. But so go ahead, Vanton.
Yeah, we've done pretty much everything other than the camera thing you said.
Yes.
Everything other than that, we haven't done that. Maybe we should. I don't know. Maybe we should try it. We've done everything else. I think that the most important step is when you don't play the game. Other people play your game. You're just there to solve a question if there is there, and you see how the experience is for them, if they enjoy it, what they enjoy, what confuses them, and you try to address those points in your next designing work.
Yeah.
And staying focused. You have to remember what were your design goals at the beginning, and not just wander off to discover everything that.
Yeah, designing goals is very important, to have all the time in your head or in your notepad that I need a game that's this and that, and never roam around, because it's very easy to roam when you design. Yes. You have an idea, you say, oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, but does it meet any of your goals? If not, then forget about it. It's for another game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like with this one, did this start as I want a game about inventors and the 19th century into the 20th century, or did this start as a series of mechanics that you really liked? How did this one start?
The theme was one of the first things we decided. The theme about well, the first idea was Aeolus that said, I want a game that people can play with their kids. And okay, I said something educational, maybe something, and he said, oh, about scientists. Everybody would want to play Einstein or Tesla, and etc., etc. And that was the first thing about the game. The very first thing was the theme. The mechanics came afterwards.
When we started, it was like a constraint. I always had gone and commissioned an illustration for every inventor that we have in our prototype, and all the inventions. Like literally went on, looked at which were the most critical inventions that happened during the Industrial Revolution, who were the most influential inventors, and commissioned artwork. And then the one thing we had in the beginning was we have to use all the artwork. That was the only constraint.
Right. So the theme was first, then we had the mechanics. I believe in the very, very first steps of the designing of this game, we had, how do we say it? We had not gambling, but bidding. We had bidding.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
in the very, very first iteration of the game, we had bidding. And as the game, took place, as the game was created, we figured that bidding is not something that really goes with inventions and inventors and science. It's something about casino. It's not something about a university or something. And this mechanic left and was replaced by the worker placement aspect of the game, where everything you do, it does help you, it does give you points, but also progresses humanity, and everybody can use it. If you have Einstein in your field, then okay, he will find something, he will invent inventions, okay, but everybody will get something out of it. Everybody will have new options now. Everybody will have new tools, new everything. So you don't really want one of your players not playing. Everybody help each other, even though it's competitive, because we actually progress humanity through science. That's the feeling of the game.
Yeah. So, because I have not been to Greece, I am now curious. Is your game going to be in like, what's a typical game store like in Greece? Is there a typical game store? I don't know what the gaming culture is like there at all.
Pretty,
yeah, go ahead.
It's pretty close to US, I think.
Okay.
We have lots of stores that sell board games and games, other etc. And we have other kinds of stores who sell board games, and you can also play board games in them.
Okay.
Like coffee shops, like a cafeteria or something, but with a board game aspect. I believe we are very similar in that part.
Okay. Yeah. Are there conventions in Greece too, or other ways that people get together in bigger groups? Or
yeah, the past week there was Comic-Con in Thessaloniki.
Yeah, Comic-Con 6, I think. It had lots and lots of people and some of the greatest comic artists of the world.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a very big convention.
And some local board game designers who showed people how you get started with designing board games and how you get published.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So are you going to Essen? Are you taking the game to Essen?
Yes,
cool.
we're going to Essen. We're going to Essen. We're very excited about it. It's gonna be the first time for me going to Essen, and 3 years in the business I didn't go because it didn't happen because of COVID.
Yeah.
And now we're all super excited to go again and meet other designers, share our work, share our process. I always says the best stories about people who he met in Comic-Con, and he ended up either working on a game, or how many people, because they met us meaning our designing group now, I wasn't there then, who, because they met there, they follow the designs of the games for years to come. Because because they created some personal relationship, and that's I think it's awesome. Yeah. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah. So related to all that, what do you hope, and again, congratulations on your game hitting its goals, and I think what you're at like 260% or more, which is great. But what do you really want to see come out of this game? Are you gonna? Do you have anything in the works next, or is it just all focused on making sure this gets done and out to backers in the next year? Sorry, there's lots of things going on there. Let's start with this. Let's start with this. What are you two working on anything else besides Age of Inventors right now?
I don't know if you should say. I don't know if you should say, but yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. And is it something that is also going to... Do you think that you're going to stay on Kickstarter in the future, or are you going to try other things like BackerKit or GameFound or anything like that?
I think from past experience, the preference is Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And if things remain the way they are, I mean, it depends on how. We are not the leaders by any stretch of the imagination, so we cannot like lead the way into different platforms. People who are more flexible and can experiment, I can see them going into other platforms. There's some opportunity over there, but for us, we have to play it safe. So just out of this aspect,
GameFound seems to be doing a great job. I personally would love to go there for a project, but because Kickstarter works so well, it's the safest choice, and we are at that step of our career that we need the safest choice. That's what we're trying to say.
Okay. And then the second kind of thing in there that I rolled into all that was with so this will probably be out to listeners and people to watch when you have about 10 days left, what would you really want them to know about Age of Inventors? I mean, we've talked a lot about the game. We've talked in depth about the game today, but what would you really want them to know so that they remember you and start to develop that relationship with you and other games that you might have in the future?
The goals that we think we have achieved and that we are happy with ourselves is that playing this board game, first of all, you will have a totally different experience based on what laboratory will be yours and what kind of which inventors you have recruited. This creates a great replayability in the game, which for me is very important when I buy a board game for myself. I want to have replayability. I don't want to be bored with it or say, okay, I know what I have to do to win. I just let's try to do the same thing over and over. This is definitely not Age of Inventors. And the other thing is that you can have a good time. At least we had an awesome time playing it with friends, with our significant others, and with children, my nephews, or other people who were small, our little playtesters. So I believe that if there is someone who wants to play with his family, with his other kids, it is a game for them. If someone is more of a competitive nature, he will find there's plenty of challenge in this game. Pretty much, this is for me.
Yeah, for me, I would say that it's a game that has deep gameplay experience. Like, you're not gonna feel that just by playing once you figured out everything is said. There's a lot to explore, a lot to discover, and it's a thinker. Like, if you like to feel like you accomplished something when you win, it's gonna give you this experience because it's a tight game. It's hard. It has a challenge that is very satisfying to play. It's not gonna lock you out of options. You will always be able to play, but to win, it's gonna be satisfying to think about it.
Very good. Well, yeah. Is there anything else that either of you would want to say, either about your game or just games in general, or?
I would say I would love to meet you in person in Essen. If anybody wants to come and say hello, we can play games and just enjoy the hobby.
How should they find you then? Is finding you on Twitter or something a good way, or Facebook, or what's a good way to connect with you?
So if you go to BTG, the listing of the game, you can find us listed as designers. We have our socials there, over there. And if you come in Essen and you want to find us, there's going to be a sign that says Meeple Pug, it has a nice little dog, and Big Board Theory, who are contributing to help us publish the game. So we will be there. And we will be sounding Greek, and there will be a distinct smell of ouzo. Oh, no. That's how you can find it.
Okay. that just threw me off, but okay. Yeah, no, thank you both. I really enjoyed talking with you today. I hope some people,
us too.
It was nice.
Yeah, thank you. Get to meet you. I was hoping to come to Essen this year, but it looks like it will be at least next year. But for those who get to, I think they'll have a good time hanging out and talking with you both.
We'll meet with you next year then.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's just getting across the ocean. But yeah. So right.
Thank you so much for your time, and your questions were excellent, and for the quiz about Marie Curie that really started to get the whole.
Yeah, I was
very nice. Yeah, it was me too. I was like, oh my god, what if we don't know?
No, you guys did great. You did wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.